Long ago, in a kingdom surrounded by tall forests and cold mountains, there lived a kind queen. She was the kind of queen who smiled at children in the streets and thanked the cooks in the kitchen. She cared about her people, and her people cared about her. But there was one thing her heart wanted more than anything else: a child. One winter evening, the queen sat by a window that looked out over the palace garden. Snow fell softly, like the sky was sprinkling tiny white feathers. The queen held a needle and carefully stitched cloth for a baby blanket she hoped she would use one day. Then, prick! The needle poked her finger. A small drop of red blood fell onto the white snow on the window ledge. The queen stared at it, red on white, with the dark wood of the window frame behind it. And in that quiet moment, the queen whispered a wish. "Let me have a daughter," she said, "with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as dark as night." She waited, holding her breath. But the wish did not echo. It listened. And before another winter came, the queen had a baby girl. They named her Snow White. Snow White grew up in the palace like a spring flower after a long, cold season. She was gentle, curious, and kind. She laughed easily. She helped workers without being asked. She spoke to animals as if they could understand her, and sometimes it seemed like they did. But happiness doesn't always stay forever. Snow White's mother became sick and passed away while Snow White was still young. The palace became quieter. Even the hallways felt different, like they missed her. The king tried to be strong, but he was lonely, and after time passed, he married again. The new queen arrived with a proud chin, a sharp smile, and eyes that looked like they were always judging everything. She was beautiful, yes, but her beauty was like ice, cold, hard, and dangerous. And the strangest thing about her? She carried a mirror everywhere she went. Not a normal mirror. This one was made of dark glass, almost like shiny black stone. Its frame was silver, carved with swirling shapes like twisting vines. Each morning, she pulled back a curtain and asked the same question. "Mirror of shadow, mirror of sight, who is the fairest in the light?" The mirror answered in a voice that sounded like a whisper in a cave. "You, my queen." And she would smile, satisfied. Years passed. Snow White grew taller. Her hair was dark and shining. Her face seemed bright like sunlight. One morning, the queen asked her mirror again. But this time, it paused. "My queen, your beauty is sharp and bright, but Snow White shines with a gentler light." The queen's smile disappeared. "Who is the fairest?" she demanded. "Snow White." Jealousy wrapped around her heart like a thorny vine. The same day, she summoned the huntsman. "Take Snow White into the forest," she said calmly. "Make sure she never returns." The huntsman bowed, though his face was troubled. Snow White trusted him, so when he led her into the woods, she did not fear him at first. But the forest grew darker. The air felt colder. At last, the huntsman stopped. "I can't do this," he said. "Do what?" Snow White asked softly. "The queen wants you gone. Run, go far away, don't come back." Snow White stared at him in shock. "Please," he said, "I'm trying to save you." So she ran. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs shook. As night began to fall, she saw a warm glow ahead. A small stone cottage stood against the mountain. Inside were 7 small chairs, 7 bowls, and 7 little beds. Too tired to think, Snow White lay down across the beds and fell asleep. Later that night, 7 mountain brothers returned from the mines. They were the keepers of the mountain. When they found her sleeping, they whispered in confusion, "Who is she?" Snow White woke and told them everything. The tallest brother, their leader, listened carefully. "You may stay," he said at last, "but promise us something." "Anything," Snow White replied. "If a stranger comes, you do not open the door." She promised. Days passed peacefully. Snow White cooked and cleaned, but she also filled the cottage with laughter and warmth. Even the grumpiest brother began to soften. But far away, the queen learned Snow White still lived. She disguised herself as an old woman and carried ribbons to the cottage. Snow White remembered her promise, but she opened the door just a little. The ribbons tightened around her waist until she collapsed. The brothers returned early and saved her. "That was your stepmother," the leader warned. "Next time, trust your fear." The queen tried again, this time with a poisoned comb. Snow White refused to open the door, but she opened the window. The comb touched her hair. She fell again. Once more, the brothers saved her. "No more doors, no more windows," the leader said firmly. Snow White nodded. "I promise." But jealousy does not give up. The queen prepared her final trick, a shining apple poisoned on only one side. Disguised again, she knocked at the cottage. Snow White refused to let her in, so the old woman cut the apple in half and ate from the pale side. Nothing happened. Snow White hesitated. The old woman looked tired. The apple looked sweet. Snow White opened the door just enough to take a slice from the red side. One bite, and she fell. When the brothers returned, nothing worked. She would not wake. The cottage felt colder than winter. They built a crystal case from the purest mountain stone and laid her inside. They placed it high on a ridge where the sunrise touched first. Each day they kept watch. Back at the castle, the queen stood before her mirror. "Who is the fairest?" The mirror's voice was faint. "The fairest light cannot be trapped forever." The queen struck the mirror. Cracks spread across its surface. She struck it again, and with one final blow, it shattered. The dark glass fell like broken night. And at that exact moment, high on the mountain ridge, Snow White gasped. Her eyes opened. The spell was broken. The brothers rushed to her side. "You're safe," the leader said. Snow White stepped from the crystal case and looked at the sunrise. "I'm not running anymore," she said softly. Without the mirror, the queen's power faded. She was no longer feared, only pitied. Snow White returned to the kingdom stronger than before. She ruled with kindness instead of jealousy, and the 7 keepers of the mountain remained her closest friends. And the kingdom remembered her not just for beauty, but for courage, for choosing kindness, and for a wish that did not echo because it listened.